Hey everyone, welcome to The Grind. So for the next 5 weeks, it's going to be a real spicy time of talking about Songs of Solomon. Very exciting, very spicy. Book that probably none of us really read, to be very honest,
Yes.
until...
Or at least the right way.
Yeah, exactly. It's more like... That's probably...
Are your parents home?
But yeah, so I think when I first read it, I was a kid, and I was like, wow, this is really R-rated. So,
Well, for a kid, you know a lot of things.
I mean, it's describing body parts and stuff
That's
like
true.
that. So, let's just say I quickly skipped over that and went back into like the killings and the judges.
Mom, what's bosom?
Bottom.
No, I'm just kidding.
Actually, I don't think I've ever asked my mom that. I don't think I could ever bring myself to ask my parent what is a bosom. So, but speaking of which, so anyways, we're in this series looking at the Song of Solomon, or songs depending on the version that you're using. And so I think one of the reasons why we're doing this is because, like, sex, love, marriage, there are huge issues in our culture, and this book is dedicated to this, to kind of like, and it probably will serve as a really good guide to basically the most important relationship we will ever have, which is one of our spouse, if we get married. Well, one person's married, one person's dating, and I'm in the process, so here we go.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. So, first question is this. What do you normally look for in a partner? Rico.
Well, I found mine, so...
Please describe. Was she what you were looking for?
yeah, pretty much. She has the... How should I say? The whole package? Yeah, she's like everything that I possibly want to have.
Good answer, husband.
Yes, thank you. So yeah.
For me, like one of the main things I wanted was that she had a strong faith. And also the next part that goes hand in hand is that she has the same passion as mine, which is ministry. And I feel, and then again, like, okay, clarify that this is my first relationship, so I have no understanding like what is the standard.
Oh, so much to learn from this guy right here.
Yep. Let me get some notes. But no, one of the main things I really, really wanted was that I wanted God's approval. I think I'll expound on that some more later on. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow, God's approval. Give me it really
Later on. Looking forward for that.
Later on with Dom seeking approval from God. Yeah, I guess mine could be like the U2 song. I still haven't found what I was looking for. So
Wow.
I just had to throw that out.
Oh dear.
But yeah, I think what I would look for also is someone who's like after God's heart, and basically loves Jesus, and someone also I could do ministry with too at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I think definitely similar interests. I think before the list was like super long, and then now it's like, that's not important. That's not important. That's not important.
To a point now that your new song is With or Without You.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. So as you can see, my life is a series of U2 songs.
Or anything goes. I don't know.
Yeah. Or here we go again. So anyways, every courtship begins with an attraction phase. Am I right or am I
Yes,
right?
it
So,
is.
and I think there are different, people or like personality traits that we're attracted to. And so, but then for some people, they tend to look for love in the wrong places.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's something that Pastor Red did touch on as well. Like they try to manufacture feelings of love, and love is, become something that's just for personal gratification or whatever. So why do you think some people do look for love in the wrong places?
Ooh, I would say maybe one thing would be desperation, just because it's reality as well, because there are people who would reach a sort of their stage in life where they are pressured either by their parents, like, oh, when are you gonna get married, or like when are you gonna be able to get a wife or a husband, and sometimes they would just start looking, and if you're not careful, then you'll go looking in the wrong places. So yeah.
Actually, for me, also my answer kind of involves the parents. But what I was gonna say was that they have a need, and then they want someone else to satisfy it. This is something I picked up from like inner healing classes, that let's say like a mom did not provide enough like comfort or like love for the child, and so when the child grows up, that's actually what they need. There's a void,
Oh,
and they
so
need to fill it.
Oh, so they look for that in a
Yes,
partner.
exactly.
Oh,
But then
wow.
like, and then I feel that could go bad because then it starts being a one-way kind of thing where they constantly need it.
And it becomes like an expectation if the person doesn't have it.
Exactly. And so when like, yeah, the moment they can't provide it, then
Boom. Next.
conflict, right?
Oh.
Because one of the pastors when I told them about my relationship, one of the key things that they told me was, do not I can't remember how she phrased it, but it was like, don't treat her like your mother. Don't let her mother you.
Oh.
And so that kind of like stood out to me a lot. And
Wow.
And
Don't
would you,
let her mother you. Wow.
yeah, would you want to be in a relationship with someone who's like mothering you all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, people look for for love in the wrong places, peer pressure as well. Yes, and also like family standards, like
Yeah.
trying to reach a goal.
Mhm.
And sometimes maybe they just don't know where to like start in the first place as well.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, it boils down to like, how do they see themselves? Like, do they see themselves as, beautiful, or do they see themselves as someone who's secure? And sometimes like, the way you see yourselves is also in a way that can sabotage your own relationship too. Because like one of the things that Pastor Ray was talking about was how like all are beautiful and captivating in the eyes of the Heavenly Father. But let's be real, there are people here that I'm not here, but I'm saying like in the world who struggle with seeing themselves from this perspective of the Father. Like even though they're like one of the most beautiful people, like deep down they just are not feeling it.
Yeah.
So, and hence they look for love in the wrong places. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
So I would say insecurities are ways of how one would self-sabotage.
Yeah.
What are some ways some people can self-sabotage their relationship? Or reasons, I guess.
Oh, maybe one thing would be like trying to reveal their own weakness to a point that it's unattractive.
Okay, elaborate.
Okay, so if I'm gonna be elaborating, I feel like this is me.
So he doesn't want to talk about it.
Okay, let's just try to think of something else in terms of like the description. Like just say like, I'm not the type of person who really speaks well, and then you would start just having conversations where it's just too awkward, and the person start to get really bored of what you're saying, something like that. I mean, like, I'll be honest, I've been in that situation, so yeah, but I was sort of deliberately
sabotaging that relationship. So it wasn't like a oh no, I didn't know I was sabotaging this relationship. More like, I want to get out of this relationship, so I'm sabotaging it.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I think something that comes to mind is that like sometimes, especially on like the topic of insecurities, I feel it's because they want a hero to pull them out. Like for example, like if insecurity is like a hole that they've dug and they can't get out, then I think what people would want is that they want a hero to pull them out. And I think that there's an expectation that could be their spouse, because like there's this line from Kevin Hart that I really like, but that's probably not very good. Is that your BS is my BS and my BS is your BS.
Okay.
And so that I feel if a couple were not in a mature relationship, the moment they, almost similar to what you said, that as they reveal their insecurities, right? Like they want, it's almost like they want it's like a cry for help, that they want the spouse to help them like out of the hole.
Oh,
but
okay.
then and I feel that if they're not careful, you might just end up pulling your spouse into the hole, and now it's becoming a bigger issue.
Oh, okay, that's a good take.
Yeah. Well, with this Shulamite woman, she doesn't have a name. We just know her as the Shulamite woman. It's interesting because if you read Song 1, like in one way, she's seeing herself as just really dark, not beautiful, like work to the bone, that kind of deal, working the vineyards. And then you have Solomon, the way he describes her is that she is beautiful and she's like basically the best thing that he's ever seen. And so it's just really interesting how, like, both persons' reality is I guess their perception of reality is so different in a sense.
Reality meaning like how she looks.
How it is. So at the end of the day, like insecurities, can play a huge part in coming in your way of relationships.
Yeah.
And kind of letting the people know you, or and yes, in a way sabotaging it. It does get in the way of getting allowing people to get to know who you are, to actually
The real
establish-
you.
yeah,
in
the
a
real
way.
you.
Yeah.
And then in a way, this attraction phase is just kind of like,
Mm.
goes to nowhere, because
Mm.
then you can't create like a meaningful relationship.
Yeah.
Because insecurities are just in the way. But
Oh.
like, obviously, like when you think about like start thinking about romantically about the other person, and you pursue that, like what are some of the right things to consider when thinking romantically about the opposite gender? Like how do you process your emotion? Like how do you discern if it's the will of God?
I think one of the main thing is, of course, putting God in the process.
Yeah.
Like even at the beginning of the attraction part. Like
Mhm.
like for example, when I first met my wife Rachel, we were in a in a birthday party of a common friend,
Mhm.
and then I found her really attractive during the time. Well, I still do. Let's just
Wow,
make
good
it clear.
backpedaling right
But I'm
there.
just saying that time when I first met her, I really found her pretty beautiful, and then I also prayed about it and asked the Lord if she is the right person, and the Lord kind of like I mean, for me personally, I just felt like he also sort of told me to go through the right process as well. And then the funny thing about that right process as well is when I first tried to interact with Rachel, I sort of stalked her in Facebook.
Okay.
And then I asked my friend, "Oh, who is that girl with the white dress?"
Who's
in
our
your
mutual friends?
Who, yeah. And then I communicated with her and I asked for her number. But 15 years now, it has been. It's a really amazing journey. So yeah. So.
I don't know. I'll be honest. I really didn't know how to answer this, but like, one thing that came to mind was winning the small battles. I think. And the only example I could think of is like Chris Vallotton, the pastor from Bethel, and he shared this one thing, and then it really just stood out to me as like where like winning the small battles is like just honoring her. Like for example, like when you go in for a hug, it's never like, it's always like a side hug. It's like the Christian hug.
Leave space for the Holy Spirit.
I don't know.
Make
But yeah.
space for the Holy Spirit.
But yeah, so yeah, that's like I feel that's like that's why I could come up with that small battles, and always do things that honors her.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like for me, like processing emotions, like yes, when I'm attracted to like the opposite gender, it's like, okay, well, I don't know how to handle all of this. So I think usually I talk it out with someone, because there is a danger like telling a whole bunch of people like, oh, I like this person, and then it just becomes wildfire, and then it could potentially makes things awkward, right? Like, oh, did you know Pet likes this person? And it's like, oh god, I didn't mean for that. But I think it's I think in terms of processing, how I process is basically I need to talk it out with someone. So
The right person though as well.
yeah,
to talk to.
obviously, yeah, not the person who's going to be like, hey, guess what?
I bet.
Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely right things to consider. I think there's just so many things to consider about
Of course.
the opposite gender. Like,
Yeah.
yes, is this person fit? Life stage wise, culture wise. I mean, there was one time there was this guy I was really interested in, but a mentor told me like even though he's a good guy, but culturally speaking, I don't
There'd
know.
be a lot of conflict.
There will be a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
And back then I was like, oh, but then love would prevail all. But then practically speaking, yeah, I think.
Well,
we
to be
just-
honest, actually, that was our issue as well because Rach and I, we came from a different background. Even though we're both Asians, we're culturally different. Like Rachel is from a Chinese family, and I'm in a Filipino family, and just the lifestyle is quite different. So my mom was pretty concerned about it. I mean, like she was okay with the relationship, but at the same time, she was like saying, you just have to be sure that you are prepared of the obstacles that you guys are going to be facing. So yeah.
So I think in the midst of like processing emotions and everything, we don't want to awaken love before it's time. And that's a repeated phrase that we see in the book of Songs, like do not awaken love before it's time.
Yeah.
And again, we're humans, and it's hard to sometimes I guess keep that love down, I suppose, and not awaken it.
Well, it's not a problem for me now since I'm married.
Okay, all right. You can get it anytime. So, but for us who are not in said relationships, there are different ways that people undertake, right, to not awaken love before it's time / in other words, abstain from sex. So we have a little activity, I guess.
Wow, activity.
A game which I think has been prepared for us. Thank you, Nathan. And so what we're gonna do is there's a series of scenarios that we're gonna pick, and we're gonna rate from a 1 to 10 how effective it is from abstaining from sex / not awaken love.
I like the
before
fact
it
that
pleases.
all of the situations are in a toilet bowl.
Which could potentially ideally explain the situation. So Rico, why don't you do the honors?
Well, to be fair, I haven't watched this.
Same.
Well, it says watch Schindler's List.
Have you
I'll give
watched
this a
it?
10. I'll give this a 10 just because it's, I know, in a way.
I don't think love is gonna be awakened when you watch Schindler's
Yep.
List.
Definitely a 10. I'll give this a 10. Go for a run. Do something else physical. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if avoiding it is a struggle, I mean, like being physical is another struggle for me.
That is
Okay,
true.
alright, so for him probably a 0 then. Not effective at all. Okay, next.
Okay. Engage in vigorous online shopping. I think this is for you.
Yes, 10 out of 10 for me.
Like it resolves it by like putting another issue on top of the issue itself.
Yeah, so we just want to hide our issues. So this is a perfect way of hiding it underneath the new clothes.
Under the carpet.
Yeah, exactly. New clothes,
No.
new carpet that you bought online.
Nah.
Oh, this is for me. Take on an all-you-can-eat buffet. 10. Read the book of Revelation. Yeah, this is an 11.
But some people are like, oh no, it's the end times. We better get it on. And so it
YOLO!
so literally, so it might be 2 out of 10 for them.
Wow, this one.
What?
Define your respective boundaries.
Oh wow,
Wow, very
very good.
insightful.
If you're not thinking with your body parts, but you're letting yourself be, I guess, working around the boundaries that you guys set for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're saying like, hey, my bottom line is I'm not having sex before marriage. I'm not doing anything to arouse that would lead to that. So that means we're not going to be in a room alone together. We're not going to be
Yeah.
doing this like one-on-one, whatever it is. Then I guess that would be effective.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are different ways to not awaken love before it's time, to abstain from sex and maintain the sexual purity. Some potentially more effective than the others. Those are some things that I may use, I don't know. But with an emphasis, if you look at this book, there is an emphasis of not awakening love before
For
it's
marriage.
time. So why is it wrong to awaken love before it's time?
I just remembered, like what I said earlier, that there is a sort of an attachment, and I do believe that emotional attachments is one of the hardest or even the longest to get away from, unless of course you pray about it, and then you're gonna be asking for God to really cut ties with that previous emotional attachment you had. But in general, if you have that emotional attachment from your previous relationships, it can compromise your current relationship based on like one for sure is because you have something to compare your current relationship with, and if you're not careful, it will harm your current one.
I think for me it's I'm gonna like use this teaching that I heard about that, that if God can trust you with the small things, He can give you greater things. Like if you can show that you could steward the small things, God will bless. Like there's so many gifts He wants to give you, and I feel the same thing could be applied into relationships. That if you're not able to handle the small things, then you're definitely not ready for like the deeper
True
areas of a relationship.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna like use a personal example here, is that like due to miscommunication, there was a lot of hurt going back and forth, and then like neither party knew about it, me and my girlfriend, and it got to a point where like I really wanted to react immature, like I wanted to be like, I just wanted to give the cold shoulder, but then if I did react immature, then there's no way the relationship won't deepen that much.
Right.
But then
yeah
like thank God that He really like slapped some senses into me and I didn't act immature. And actually, because I actually tuned into God at that point, He actually gave me an answer, and then when I applied the answer into the issue, it kind of resolved it.
Oh wow.
And so that's what I mean by like, if you can deal with the small things, like not acting immature, the relationship can just go even deeper. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I think when you awaken love when it's not time, you will make choices that you may potentially
Yeah.
look back and regret.
Yeah.
Because I heard this as well. It's like once you have sex, you kind of like give a piece of your soul to the person. And if you have sex with multiple people, it's just like what you have left is just nothing much, because each time it's just a connection. And then at the end of the day, when you end up with your final person, then what you have left is nothing much.
Just a piece of the puzzle now.
Just a piece of puzzle left. It's just like maybe a broken piece. I don't know. This is what I
Wow.
heard. And
yeah.
I guess, you know, in some way it does make sense. Because you don't want to like kind of just, some people like say, yeah, have sex, and you know, so that you know what you like and how it works, and then so that when you get to your one, then you know how it works.
Yeah, but
then,
that means to say that you are like, that person is preparing for the right person
yeah,
because you are getting ready for it right now, which is it's not really the right mindset.
yeah,
so.
because then you're basically manufacturing love in the sense, feelings and stuff like
yeah,
that. That
yeah,
really
yeah.
is not.
And sometimes what you're manufacturing is not the right one too.
Yeah, maybe like the one that you end up with, like, oh well, actually I don't like this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, don't awaken love until it pleases.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, why do you think then are the benefits of waiting for the one, I guess, so to save yourself for marriage?
Well, of course, I was excited.
Well, yes, I understand that.
I'm just gonna say I'm excited. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's the one.
That's the benefits. Just
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Of course.
So for me, as I said before, right, that I involved God in my relationship. And I think, like I said, I wanted God's approval, meaning I wanted to be with whoever God thought was best for me. And when I engaged in this relationship, I always kept saying I want to involve God, and we kept praying about it. And I did see some outcomes, like perhaps like really cool outcomes. It was like, for example, there was a time where like I live based off experiences. I'm like a very spiritual person, and like seeing how this is my first relationship, I knew nothing about relationships, and I haven't even talked with people. And sometimes when my girlfriend asks me these really deep questions, I'm like, out of the blue, I couldn't answer it, and like to me it surprised me, because like I didn't know about that. And so like I shared something where I learned from it. And there were times where that God really came in clutch, where I could have done something really stupid, but then he, like, one of the prayers I kept asking was that God safeguards my relationship. And so a lot of times I screwed up. Sometimes God would say, like, do you still trust me to take care of a relationship? Like I thought that I've messed it up, like there's no turning back. And yeah, God still says the calm voice goes, you trust me?
No.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, I suppose like I've been for so long now, so it's like watching people get married, watching, you know, just seeing like the ebbs and flows of life, and just be like, okay, well, everyone's getting married, bye, you know. And so how do I handle that? How do I guess not awaken love? Because it's so tempted to see this and want to, I guess, manufacture love, and you know, in a way, like I could potentially start looking for love in the wrong places. Like, just gotta get it done, you know, just cross that bridge, and then I'm calling it. And so, but I realized over time that I have to trust God's timing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think maybe when I do end up with that one person, then it's like, okay, I can see how it's worth it. So maybe when it happens, that I can see how it's worth it. Like the process, this whole waiting, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And something that I've been challenged to do is like, hey, you want to celebrate when your friends get married, because you want them in your life when they, you know, when you yourself reach that phase in life.
Yeah.
So there has been times where, like, you know, you're starting to see your, like, you know, your youth, that you're the youth pastor of, they're the ones getting married, and eventually they're gonna start having kids, and it's like, oh wow, this is you know, what a, I guess, a process to be in. But if anything, this process has just been teaching me, like, you know, hey, at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to trust God's timing. At the end of the day, I have to trust that who God has in mind for me is better than who I can imagine it to be. So yeah, waiting is never easy. And I think it's so easy to just go into like the personal gratification, but so hence shopping online.
eating.
Yeah, shopping, you know. And I think people sometimes glorify marriage though and make it their aim without even thinking about the process. I don't know if you guys heard of ring by spring.
Oh, is it like if you cannot wait, just get married? Is it something
So
like that?
it's basically like a lot of people, if you look at specifically mainly in Christian
Yeah.
colleges, a lot of people, they go into college and they leave with a ring. So they joke like, oh, we're coming in as a miss and we're leaving with a degree as a missus, you know, because that's the whole idea, is like ring by spring. So I think they also use it as an excuse to like, oh, I guess legitimize having sex.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
so, you know, as long as we have
Yeah.
the ring on the finger, then we can have sex, right?
Yeah.
So then people rush that, and then sometimes these marriages, they don't last.
Okay.
Maybe they do last, you know, praise God, but
Mhm.
but I think that's I guess I think mainly in the States, especially in Christian colleges. So yeah.
I think I've never heard of it, but in a way, I've had that sort of like kind of reminder by people, like saying like, oh, since you're if you really cannot wait, just go get married, like that. But then I think there is a drawback to that as well, because the intention is different. Like your intention is not to have a long and lasting forever relationship with the person. It's just that because you
Want to have like boom boom.
you
chicka,
kind of
wow,
want.
wow.
I was gonna go for you wanna get down, but that was a bit much. But yeah, anyway, so yeah.
It's just sad that people will. Marriage is more than just having sex, right?
Of
And I
course.
think a lot of my married friends would tell me that, you know, sex is not even the huge part of it. I think it's the connection of the person, the relationship of the person, the growing together with the person. And so
And I think also like one thing about sex is it's the privilege that you have once you marry the right person.
yeah.
And the great thing about it is because you're gonna be having that event between the person that you love and you're gonna be spending the rest of your life with.
Yeah.
And usually it will spring up with the kids, basically the children that you're gonna be having.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so I guess like don't awaken love before it pleases, and because with this poem, the end of it is to call to sexual purity.
Yeah.
And yes, it is a challenge. Not gonna lie, it is definitely a challenge. But I think most importantly is to know that God has the right person in mind. Don't manufacture feelings. Don't look for love in the right places. And I think going back to what Pastor Ed said, like, you know, we are beautiful and captivating in the Lord's eyes. So it's like we are important. So knowing that we have such an importance in His eyes, then we won't simply treat ourselves. You know,
Yeah.
we won't just let loose and do whatever. And knowing that like we are actually like really precious, like people inside of the Lord, and He wants only the best for us. So it's not as easy question like, why God? Why do I have to like wait? Why can't we just do it? But I think it all makes sense when you get married, when you have the sexual act within marriage. Then I suppose, ta-da! It's like probably that light bulb, like ding. Makes sense.
You were right all along.
all along. So
Yeah.
yep, waiting's
That's
never
good.
easy. Don't look for love in the wrong places. And that is that. And
That's
don't-
not the shopping online you should go for.
No. And on that note, thank you so much for joining us on the grind, and we will catch you on our next one.
Bye.
Bye.